Crisis Media Center to welcome us in this morning, and I would like to welcome the speakers of this expert panel on SME policy on the occasion of the launch of the Ukrainian European EU SME Week 2016. This is the first time this event series will be held in Ukraine, but it will be now a yearly activity in order to build a national consensus for European-style EU SME politics in Ukraine. This is very important, and we are very honored that we have a very high-level presentation among our speakers here with us this morning, especially Andriy, as the head of the Secretariat of the Council of Ministers, Council of Entrepreneurs. It's very good that you're here this morning. We are honored, and we will looking forward to your contribution. I have also to announce Dmytro, who is the expert for land reform in this country, and he is really pushing very much for reasonable European-style land legislation, and I'm honored that you're here this morning with us. Oleksandr is also working for the International Advisory Group, who is assisting in the private sector reform and in the reform of Ukraine, headed by Mr. Balcerowicz and Mr. Miklos, and we are very happy that you are here with us this morning. You are the expert for business environment improvement. It will be an important topic. Our main stakeholder and friend, of course, is the Chamber of Handicraft, because this is very important for the SME development. Secretary General Yelizaveta, it's great that you're here with us this morning. You're very welcome. And for Olga, I have to announce you're the expert for the competition law. Together with the Friedrich Naumann Foundation, you have made an excellent study about competition law and SMEs and about informality and SMEs, and you will present this morning, and we are very grateful for this. And Eduard is the expert for taxation, and we are very grateful that you're here with us this morning. The language will be Ukrainian, just me. I have not learned this wonderful language up to now, and so I will speak in English. Valerie, I would like to welcome you very much from the European Business Association, one of the 13 stakeholders who has endorsed this activity, and we are very grateful that you are also supporting this. And of course, the European Business Association, the European EU SME Week, there's a natural partnership. Now I would like to make and start with my presentation. These are basically, it's a European-wide activity. All over Europe, the EU SME Week is starting in November 2016. And now we have 13 different stakeholders who are endorsing it. And I will start now with my presentation. Maybe this works? Yeah. Which button I have to press? Okay. Look. The situation of SMEs in Ukraine today is very dramatically bad. I'm doing actually SME reform since the last 20 years in all the accession countries of Southeastern Europe and of Eastern Europe, from Poland, Slovakia in the 90s to the last 10 years in EU accession countries in the Balkans, and nowhere it has been as bad as in Ukraine today, in all various aspects. Land access, labor market, mobility, market aspect, and taxation, it's really not good. This is important to understand. It's not to be critical to the government effort at the moment, but it's a factual situation that this situation is really not acceptable as it is at the moment. Ukraine is rich in potential. I think we all agree on that. But there is a little bit of a perception that it's too big, too special, you know, it's a bit different, and so the normal concept of European reform don't work. But it's not true. The fact is that we have all this concept in the transition countries of Southeastern Europe and of Central Europe used already. They work here as well. Ukraine is a total normal country. It just has to follow the same recipes like we have done the last 20 years for reform of Central and Eastern Europe. Land access. It's very important, you know. SMEs need land in European style. How can it be you cannot sell land in some aspects here? How can it be there's a moratorium for land transactions? It's not possible. How can it be we are not doing the same reform efforts like on the construction permit, like we have done it in Southeastern Europe? It's really a major issue. SME and capital. Obviously, access to capital is a central element. How can it be we still have a tax system which is a major obstacle for formality? How can this be? It's not possible. SME and the labor market. The labor market is very dysfunctional in Ukraine today. It's very restrictive on the one side, and on the second side, it's allowing a very, very easy system for individual entrepreneurs to be totally regular without contributing a lot to social security or to taxation. This is also dysfunctional. Mobility as well, we will discuss this as well. It's a major problem in the mobility sector in Ukraine as well. We have drafted several principles which are very important to communicate together, and we will go into detail with Olga's presentation. The first one is competition policy. Competition policy is the prime element of a market economy. You cannot allow hyper-concentration in specific sectors. It's simply not happening. And we have done that very, very detailed in the European Union. And it's not enough just to have a law or have an institution. You have to strictly implement this. And if you're not able to do it, then let's call for help. And let's ask the European Union to really enforce this together. Anti-state subsidy. It's a fundamental principle of the European Union that you don't allow the state to subsidize the business sector. The only exemption is SMEs on the regional level. It cannot be, either direct or indirectly, to have state subsidies for the companies. It is not possible. And the debate here is really a bit confused. We have to make that very clear. Ukraine going in European direction means no state subsidies for big companies. Only exemption is the block exemption under EU competition and anti-state subsidy rules, which is very clear all over Europe. Anti-corruption. I will not go into detail on that, but it's a very principal element that we have to reduce the use of cash in the economy and reduce informality in order to limit the amount of free cash wheeling in a society which is fueling the corruption everywhere. And we have gone to big efforts in Southeastern Europe in that area, because you think that you're very special. But you know, the countries like Albania, Kosovo, they're also very corrupt countries. And it is totally possible to make a major public policy intervention to reduce this. And the first driver is to fight informality and to incentivize formality. Corporate governance. This is to rein in the big state sector and to also with the help of the international companies, obviously, but to outsource procurement and open it towards the SME sector and to work with the big companies together in a partnership. It's not a kind of a fight big companies, small companies. No, we have to be a partnership ultimately, but it has to be on principles. And this is very much corporate governance. I want to also highlight some of the points what is possible with these things. In Serbia, and you all know the doing business elements, in Serbia in one year, they have gone from 152 to 36, 116 positions in the construction permitting process. It's totally possible. In Albania, from 186, it's almost the last position you can have because it's 192 countries ranked. You go up to 106, 80 positions. And this is very important to see with the help of modern e-government, with the help of the European Union, good donor funding and political will, the progress can be really, really very astonishing fast. Transparency and corruption, I pointed that out already. You know all, I think, the example of Georgia, but also in Kosovo and in Albania. I would like to welcome you very much. We are honored that you're here. You're from the Business Ombudsman, the Deputy. We are very honored that you're here with us. Good. What is important is a very systematic effort. You know, Ukraine in one way is really very, very different because it's very big and there are so many different stakeholders. Everybody wants to say something. Everybody wants to contribute. It's not so easy to organize. We have drafted a very clear table, who should do what, where, and how to organize a public policy in the field of SME policy. And this is basically our proposal with the various aspects. Again, the call is like this. This is an open, inclusive platform. All regions, all regional development agencies, all ministries, all state agencies, all donors, all business associations, all think tanks, all international organizations, everybody should participate. We're just in the beginning of this. It's now actually 13 organizations who have participated, but now it's very good. I call now to everybody who wants to participate under this agenda, under this platform, to really share with logos, join. We are very honored that the Ombudsman institution is already joining. That's a very important step forward because you have done excellent work, and we are looking very much forward also to a close partnership on that one. This is basically the concept. And then again, I repeat, decentralization of the economy, this is SME policy. Regional development according to EU lines, this is SME. This is very, very clear. No state subsidies towards big industry, but only to regional development. Transparency, anti-corruption, fight against informality, incentives for formality, and competition policy like in the European Union, and cooperation with EU accession countries. I want to frame it as well shortly in a bigger political picture, because that's also very important to understand. I would like that Ukraine is considering itself like a EU accession country. This is important. If you want to be in the vacuum, this is not possible. There is a close partnership with the EU accession countries of the Southeastern Europe, and follow exactly that line by yourself. I understand it's not so easy to convince the European Union about many of these things, but if you are ready for it, you can make the difference. This is basically the plan. A European SME-based Ukraine, very competitive, very open, and treating itself as a EU accession country already from now on. This is my presentation. I want to thank you very much. And now I would like to invite all the specific stakeholders to start with their presentation and contribution. First of all, I would like to hand to Andriy from the Prime Minister Office from the Council of Entrepreneurs. Thanks a lot for coming.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fehlinger. I would like to start with the last slide, Vision for 2020. We will have a conference, target conference, Vision of Ukraine for 2020. I haven't seen a special panel for SME development in Vision 2020 conference, which we are expecting to hold, but we taking into account how cardinal changes in the world are happening. I would focus on 4 years perspective. As concerns companies, what should we pay attention to when we develop roadmaps, action plans, or practical documents on development of SMEs in Ukraine? You know, there is such an area as youth entrepreneurship. They are not in focus of Ukrainian government for 10 years, I think. In 1990s, there was a special program focused on development for 5 years perspective for youth entrepreneurship. According to last research, employment among youth in Ukraine is 1% small entrepreneurs among youth, 38 to 40% would like to be small entrepreneurs. What is discussed intensively in Ukraine? What areas to be developed? Innovative entrepreneurship. This is what, because youth is a driver and generator of all innovations. We should connect our strategy of SMEs development and all enterprises development with our vision of economy in 5 or 4 year perspective. If we consider these issues separately, then we will accent our attention on paradigm changing to high-tech economy, high-tech products development, which we can't achieve without innovative and technological entrepreneurs. According to the estimates of sociological surveys and practical experts' estimates, from 6 to 10% of population can engage in SMEs. There are some myths that everyone would be made an entrepreneur. This is not true. Up to 10% of population are going to engage in small businesses. When we talk to small entrepreneurs, it is important for them to have fair and understandable rules of the game. Just not help us, just don't interfere with us with your tax burden and watchdogs and with your non-transparent rule of the games. We often talk, but we evaluate one aspect. Mr. Fehlinger focused attention on this cashless transactions. When 60% of economy is in the shadow and large share of businesses work not under the rules, they are in the shadow. We understand that competitiveness and fair rules of the game, they could not be built only for those who are not in the shadows. So they will not transform, they will not want to transform. Historical circumstances are that there is a symbiosis in Ukraine. It is not natural one when shadow business has cooperated with authorities, and this is a continuous source of corruption in Ukraine up to now. We should break this chain, vicious circle. Cashless economy, how can we come to it? Blockchain technologies are worldwide now. They are common in Switzerland, for example, and railway station you can buy bitcoins or other crypto exchange currencies, and this would prevent cash transactions, cash circulation. You know that our banks pay much attention to cashless economy. Without these things, without taking into consideration these things, we can't work. There are other aspects such as women's entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurship. They are very well developed in Europe, but we sometimes pay attention and put them on the agenda of our discussions. But as concerns our efforts, I think the efforts are too little.
In the Council of Entrepreneurs to really build a big multi-stakeholder effort to get these things done, and this is very important. Thanks a lot for your support. I would like to welcome as well the Secretary General of the Association of Touristic Employers, Pavlo. That's very important for us, and Olena from the Academy of Science from the Rural Development Network. That's very important that you join us. And now I would like to hand the floor to the Secretary General of the Chamber of Handicraft of Ukraine, Yelizaveta, who is a member of the UAPME network, which is the voice of SMEs in Europe, and is very important and powerful stakeholder for us, and we are happy that you are here with us this morning. Please present yourself and make your contribution.
Thank you so much.
Our topic today, which we would like to cover, is interrelationship between sectors of vocational education and SMEs. First of all, we would like to draw your attention to three important aspects: learning to do, learning to be, learning to know. There are three sides which connect employment, business. We can talk today about, we can tell today just one moment. Talking about vocational education today, we can see the situation is rather unpleasant. We feel post-Soviet problems in vocational education, and talking about innovations today, it is rather hard when the situation as it is like this, when we have vocational education. Vocational education in Europe is innovative. It is strategic priority for authorities, for leadership of European countries, and it is focused on providing demand on the labor market, on satisfying the demand of the labor market. The same we have in SMEs sphere, as has already been said by our speakers. This situation today is different from those in European countries. 99% of enterprises in EU, they are SMEs, and they satisfy more than 53 jobs. They provide more than 53% of jobs in Europe. So the situation is a paradox that vocational education and SMEs in Ukraine, they lag from indicators as in they are in Europe. This should be a symbiotic. Here we see ad hoc analysis of vocational education. Everyone can see this problem. This is obsolete system. This is for all our problems that concerns equipment, which is obsolete, and also our trainers. They do not have a modern techniques of education and development of education and system is there are no efficient tools for interrelationship between education and business. An important matter when we talk about development of some processes, there is interrelationship cooperation between social stakeholders and authorities and businesses, and except post-Soviet problems, we can see also problems in a relationship between authorities, trade unions, and social partners, and we feel this post-Soviet past. As we can see in European documents and reports of Council of the EU in 2012, in 2011, there was a plan developed, the plan for 2020, strategic program of European cooperation in education. And it was focused on providing a relevant level of qualified, skillful labor force and development of vocational education. Today, we also can see that Europe for many years has been in effect the act on SMEs, which and the slogan is first think about small enterprises. So micro, small and medium-sized businesses, they take part in policy making in European Union, talking about innovation, such interrelationship between vocational educational training and SMEs. this is the way to innovations. This symbiotic cooperation will provide us innovations. We will achieve this. This is the shortest way from educational institution to the labor market. All innovations, they appear where innovative education is in place, and where pilot enterprises help such educational institutions with implementation. Experience of Germany. We can't see our scheme, unfortunately, now. Oh, now we see it. If we talk about German best practices, the labor market and the system of education, they are very closely connected. The state and businesses and education institutions, they cooperate on continuous basis. They have close relationships. Now we can see the stakeholders, which make this system efficient. They are handicraft chambers in our country. The importance of handicraft chambers is underevaluated. We have been trying to bring this knowledge to our authorities in regions when we have decentralization. This is especially important because many functions on organization and management of educational processes, they are the function of handicraft chambers. We should review social partnerships and the role of employers in such processes. As already have been said, the role of chambers and other stakeholders have not been made clearly outlined. Roundtable discussions, work groups, they are not efficient because they are far from context, and there is no permanent mechanism for relationships. That is what our organizations have already proposed, and we accent once again that this crisis processes, they are interrelated. We proposed harmonious triangle where education, employment and business, they are cooperating as a one unified mechanism to launch economies, to drive its development, and this would provide impetus for development. This is how our model looks like: education, employment and business, where handicraft chamber will be an operator along with other stakeholders. We think that the next steps should be the platform should work on nationwide and regional levels. Reformational processes should be in deep and should cover the whole country.
And exactly this is the way we are going to do it: a social partnership on the national level and a social partnership on the regional level, where the key business organization, the state and the trade unions work together to really develop the country systematically according to the European SME agenda. Thanks a lot, it was very good. I would like now to announce that we have the Deputy Ombudsman of Business and for SMEs here with us. This is a very important institution because we systematically go for the public administration issues on the SMEs. You have a former EU commissioner as the ombudsman. This is a very big privilege actually, and very important actually, and we are honored to have you now, Mrs. Korotka, as the deputy ombudsman of Ukraine here with us, and you have gone very much in details to outlining, study the issues, and we are here now together to solve them, and we are grateful that you are here. Please, Mrs. Korotka, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this invitation. I will continue in Ukrainian if you don't mind, of course.
Well, today, colleagues brought the discussion to the high level to look into the horizon and beyond. The Business Ombudsman of Ukraine, this is an initiative which was launched by 5 big associations of businesses in Ukraine will address specific problems which businesses face in relationship with the state when they should have settle some issues with the state. So SMEs, among our applicants, their share is 70% among all our applicants. So statistics prove that half of them are companies which produce some goods. They produce Ukrainian goods. And small quantities or larger quantities, and we are very glad that because GDP, we produce it in our country. When we work with our applicants, of course, we analyze general statistical data, what complaints they address us with, the systemic reports, systemic recommendations to the government. This is the area which we cover and the level of reforms. We have already touched rather many topics, and in order to fly, the medium and the small businesses, both in education, in innovations, in creation of new technologies, we should focus on basis. The base is in tax administration. It is in tax administration plane. We have input this into the draft law on tax reform. We will help our government to support these reforms in the parliament. We believe that by our joint efforts we will bring this information and explain it to those people's deputies in Verkhovna Rada who has still no understanding of this reform. Now, when Ukraine has signed this CFTA with the European Union, with Canada, and we are preparing such agreements with other countries, the focus is on that SMEs. This is the drive to move Ukraine forward, and for this medium class which we expect, which we want to create in Ukraine, export conditions should be in place, conditions for exports of goods. Unfortunately, foreign economic activity law is of 1991 in Ukraine. There is only one provision on the sanctions which is included in it. We have the report on problems and barriers to foreign economic activities, and the government still pay not enough attention to this. As concerns customs reform, we have made the government has made some steps. The corruption-related resolution has been cancelled, which set indicative prices. The government thinks about foreign exchange regulation. This is about macroeconomics, our liabilities to IMF and our financial stability here. The matters should be addressed in delicate manner, but there is the plane which the whole range of issues such as foreign economic contracts, how they are made, how they are administered, and what sanctions are applied, and licensing of small and medium businesses. They are so-called licenses. This is not true licensing. The permit for production or working in some sphere, this is an instrument of pressure now. These matters have not been resolved yet. With experts from various technical assistance programs, we have been working out, elaborating new tools, and at the next meeting with prime ministers, as these meetings, they become permanent, they are conducted on permanent basis, and we will help small and medium businesses. They feel this hard to understand all these bureaucratic processes. Consultants provide consultation to SMEs, to large businesses, but SMEs, we should help them. So our systemic recommendations, they are specific, they concern natural monopolies or competition or criminal procedures law, but all these systemic recommendations, they are let's say roadmaps or action plans or proposals which have been elaborated on the basis of practices of specific companies, individual companies, which are aggregated, which are grouped in certain groups, and we call upon our colleagues. I see here the colleagues, and we will have cooperation with them, and we hope that when we see each other next time at this press briefing, we will tell about our steps that we have already been made.
And you know, this is really a perfect effort also that EU commissioner, former EU commissioner is heading this, and the analysis is really perfect, and together we can achieve a lot, and we definitely see that this is a major struggle to turn the post-Soviet kind of legal and regulatory situation into a European one, but the situation is in the right hands, and we are very grateful for your support. And we would like to welcome exactly now Oleksandr, who is working with Mr. Miklos together. You know, it cannot be better like this. It's really very good. Europe has deployed the best of the best we have in reforms now in Ukraine. Mr. Miklos has really transformed, together with Mr. Jorinda, Slovakia from a very big problem into a very successful EU member state, and that's tremendous. And I hope that we will looking forward to a similar success story here in Ukraine. Oleksandr, the floor is yours. We are very happy about this.
Thank you, Günter, for your invitation and possibility to say our ideas and some information about our work. I will also follow my speech in Ukrainian language.
Congratulations for this achievement. But you lived many years in Uzhhorod, I understand.
Yes, I lived for 4 years, so I just succeed in learning a local
with a lot of experience. Please, Oleksandr, in your ukrainsky now.
So, the topic of supporting small and medium-sized business and the role of this business is really important here in Ukraine. In each country, small and medium-sized enterprises, they are the basis of each economy, and also so you know that they have less opportunities than big enterprises. That's why we should also always support small and medium-sized businesses. And the most important areas where this medium and sized businesses need our support, there should be continuation of deregulation of business environment in Ukraine, and elaboration of efficient regulatory, and this is connected to the fact that small and medium-sized business, they spend a lot of time to get some permits and other things, because it is easier for big businesses to do all this. And we see that here in Ukraine, the process of deregulation was started in 2014, and as of now, many permits were cancelled, down to 84, and also the number of licenses was dropped from 57 down to 30, and they cancelled 90% of agricultural certificates, and this provides great saving. And the process of deregulation and creation of better business environment is a dynamic process. If country wants to be successful, this process should be ongoing, and you cannot just implement separate measures. This is not enough. That should be a process, because many issues, new issues arise, and new regulatory acts should come into force. And there are many opportunities for improvement of the environment. We believe that there should be legal acts that are directed at improving this sphere, and in March 2017 they implemented M-test. This is the calculation connected with each legal act, and this is up to at the level of municipalities, and also there can be introduced a practice concerning draft laws adopted in the Supreme Council. For this, we believe there should be changes in the agenda of the Supreme Council, and for each draft law there should be calculation and analysis of regulatory influence on medium and small businesses. And there is such a test at the level of the Cabinet of Ministers, and statistics shows each third regulatory act is not of quality, and state regulatory service stop these acts, and this because it has negative effect on medium and small sized businesses. One in, two out. So when the new sectors appear and new acts are needed, each new act should replace two old legal acts. The next, where we see the opportunity for improvement of the positions of small and medium-sized businesses, is financing of small and medium-sized businesses. This is a big problem in Ukraine, catastrophic situation. A banking system was stabilized, and the banks, those banks that were non-transparent, they lost their positions, and some banks have liquidity, but the price of this money is too high, and small and medium-sized business cannot afford to take loans. And also until 2013 in European Union, they provided to small and medium-sized business 27 billion of euros, and in today's period till from 2014 to 2020, 64 billion euros. And it shows that the state support the financing of business. And in Slovakia, we have a system of state agency, Slovak Business Agency, that proposes to a small and medium-sized business so-called microcredits. And percentage rate starts 1.2% up to 9% for some risky projects. So this should be also considered in Ukraine, how to implement the system of microcredits, and it should be supported by the state, especially concerning small and medium-sized business. And also we see the opportunity in the area of state procurement. This is the area a lot has been done in the introduction of Prozoro electronic system that is obligatory only for procurement.
Also to have everybody to speak.
Okay.
I want to repeat that Oleksandr from Slovakia, this is really very successful model for Ukraine. And imagine, under Major it was still not possible to join the European Union within 6 years of reform. Yeah? Slovakia could join the European Union. Yeah? It was an unbelievable success story and is now a center of European industrial manufacturing and a very good place to do business for everybody. And this can be repeated in Ukraine. Thanks a lot, Oleksandr. We need your help and we appreciate this very much. Now we come to the sector organizations. Please, Pavlo, you are from the Tourism Employers Organization. Tourism, ladies and gentlemen, is a key driver of economic reform in any country, and Ukraine will be very successful in this sector. Pablo, it's a lot of things to do.
I'm very support you in this question. So
we are looking forward.
Tourism is a driver of economy, and we believe that it will be. So I will continue also in Ukrainian. Я хочу поділитися, скажімо так.
So I would like to share our views and concerning the development of tourism and the importance of tourism for economy, because in the world, in some countries, 10 up to 20% of GDP is for tourism. So now we are going to see our project and our presentation. I won't go into detail. You know that there are different sectors. There are many of them, and all this is tourism. So I would like to show some figures. You can see here on the slide. If you compare the territory of the country and the number of people who visit, not many people come to Ukraine now. And we get less money than other countries because there are no additional services and quality and products and infrastructure is lacking. If we compare with the countries with the same number of visits. In Austria, this is the data for 2013, so it was the same as in Austria, but you see the difference in the revenue for each tourist, and if we see the profits for 2013, Ukraine got about $5 billion, and at the same time Israel got the same sum of money, but the difference of number of tourists, the number of tourists differ. So Ukraine has potential in tourism because we have many historic and cultural sites, recreation facilities, and different interesting locations that are unknown to people. So there is a multiplier in tourism. If you put $1, it produces up to $7 in adjacent areas, and also employment of people. So 2 people in tourism, they multiply up to 4 places of employment in adjacent areas. So this is important, and according to international statistics, tourism is the best sphere of economy if we concern small and medium-sized business. So this is good for investments and for the formation of positive image of the country that influences on investment and the business climate on the whole. And speaking about these issues in more detail, key aspects that are challenges for small and medium-sized business in tourism. So as Andriy told us in his report, in tourism sector there is high level of shadowing, so up to 90% they work in shadow, and this shows that the state does not get to taxes, and the consumer, the tourist, doesn't get protection of his rights if the services were not up to the level required. So there should be stimulus created to that people want to work legally. They should be provided with such environment. And also the skills and knowledge of personnel working in tourism, because they are lacking knowledge and skills. So other area resources for development. So medium and small-sized business in Ukraine, they lack information about opportunities, about technical support, grants, and access to finances, to credit programs. So locally in the regions, people cannot get this information. And at the last conference of European Commission East and West, in the joint declaration, it was stated that it is recommended to the local government and at the level of state to create information campaign and to create separate resources, special sites, and to implement other instruments to provide information to people about grants and about programs of technical help. Also, another aspect that is important to small and medium-sized business is the lack of that they do not have proper knowledge about preparation of investment projects. And some of them have good ideas, but you cannot get funding for your idea. You should be able to prepare a proper investment project. And also one more aspect we see here is that those grant programs that were implemented in tourism, they have situational character. They are situational. They are realized when there is financing. If there is no financing, so only. So this is the simple example. There was a project in Verkhovina. We developed this region, and they had a project with Romania. They got a grant from some organization to create touristic itinerary, and the experts, Ukrainian experts, they said that this project is not real because there is no checkpoint between Romania and Ukraine, and some representatives of organizations said, but this is a project, it should be unreal. But what is the sense of this project if it's not real? So what should be done? There should be mechanisms of tax stimulus for the development of the market, the internal market. The state should support by some instruments the business that develops tourism and tourism infrastructure. And it should be done in a way to create additional value, and the money should be in the country, and the money should stay in the country. And so there should be educational programs, there should be online education in order to improve education in the sector, and also there should be special center to support investment, to prepare investment packages for further implementation of these projects, and also there should be communication campaign for population supported by European Union and other countries. And also there should be complex approach, and in this the European Union started consultations on the programs in order to find out how these programs should be implemented here, and also there should be branding on regional territories, because brands at local level increase investment and improve business climate in the regions up to 70% if there is a brand. So this
17 in the sector of tourism, because it's one of the key drivers of the economic development, and it makes the whole society and the whole system working much better. And if it the key priorities, absolutely. And the other key sector in Ukraine will be, of course, rural development, agriculture. I would like to welcome Olena from the Network of Rural Development of Ukraine to outline her perspectives on agriculture, not based on agro holdings, but on SMEs in the agriculture sector. Thanks a lot, Olena, for coming.
Thank you very much, Günter. I am impressive to speak now about rural small and medium entrepreneurships, because it's very important sphere for Ukraine. And I will continue in Ukraine. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Fehlinger, for organizing such a meeting, giving me the possibility to talk here on behalf of rural SMEs, because in our country everyone remembers that Ukraine will become a flagship of combating with poverty, that Ukraine will provide many millions tons of grain, but some businesses they have large amounts of areas of agricultural lands, such as 500,000 to 1 million square meters of area. Half of GDP, rural GDP, agricultural GDP is provided by SMEs. Why is it so? Why in Ukraine we do not pay attention to SMEs? Our government do not pay attention to SMEs. Not so long ago, the work of European researcher has been published. His name is Van der Ploeg, who in his research proved that agrarian structure consists of 3 sectors in every country. This is the capitalist sector, this is the first, which work for profit and over profit and for rentals, and the second is entrepreneurs, which works in some certain niche, and the third sector is rural, in English it is farming households. In our realities in Ukraine, this is individual farms. It consists of 4.5 million households, farming households, which produce products, agricultural products, both for their own consumption and for sale. During all years of our independence, this sector has not been supported at all, and no special regulation was applicable. Last year, the changes were initiated to the law on farming enterprises in Ukraine, so these farms, they can establish family businesses and individual entrepreneur entities. This concerns the sector which is involved in entrepreneurship and the sector which produces farming households which produce agricultural products. They are not regulated by this law, so any regulatory act which would regulate SMEs, it should be also accompanied with canceling several previous law. In our country, it is to the contrary. We have some legislative structure which is focused on large businesses. We try to inbuild into it some regulations on SMEs. That is why we have no result as desirable. So we want that this family farming law, which will start working from this next year, from this year, it started to be effective. So still it is, if it is into force, there is only 1 of 10 farmers they has managed to register, but they should have the opportunity to develop their facilities, and in competition they should concentrate, they should focus their resources to work more on market basis and market principles. It is important that in Ukraine, according to experts' estimates, this sector 2.5 million is not homogeneous. They are 20%. They are small individual farms. 40% they work for their own needs, for their own consumption, and they sell just a little bit of products. And sectoral policy should be developed for each of these lines to identify these households, these enterprises. We should look into their self-identification, how they identify themselves. The state programs of support, of state support, they were implemented in one western region. There were pilot projects on breeding, livestock breeding, and those companies eligible, they received support from the state. And this concerns micro enterprises. We can talk about not agrarian activities, because via diversification we can help such small rural entrepreneurs. Along with agricultural activities, they can also engage in not agrarian, not agricultural activities. The situation does not promote development of these activities. We have specific examples when agricultural companies, the enterprises, they develop thematic project when they provide multifaceted, comprehensive tourism services. This rural households, farming households, they provide services of educational nature. They sell knowledge on production of some goods from the very start, starting with rowing of land, and then processing, and then final products manufacturing, so they can educate people about the cycle of products manufacturing.
Your sector? Thanks a lot, Elizabeth. And now also good news is on the way, because now Olga will make a presentation about competition policy. And many of the things you have described, they can really be easily addressed with competition policy. Olga, we are very honored by this very excellent study, which was supported by Naumann Foundation, one of our partners of our activities, and we are very grateful. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Günter. Напевно, як і наші економічні цикли був в світі.
Our economic cycles and our discussions, they go by cycles, so we will move to more general things. I would like to talk about how it is important to establish interrelations between SMEs and authorities. We should say that, of course, Ukraine has problems with competition and competition policy, and our 180th position and global competition index proves this. The other problem is that according to Anti-Monopoly Committee of Ukraine data, the share of competitive markets have been diminishing in Ukraine. This is the first diagram. By 2015, we can see index of global competitive ability of Ukraine. So starting with 2008, this reduction was due to increase in oligopolistic markets, but the competition was possible on the marketplaces. Starting with 2010, 2011, the percentage of monopolist markets have been increasing, and also the markets with individual monopolies, where the competition is hard, and for SMEs such competition is very difficult. Why are we talking about importance of joining these policies? Because competition policy should be adequate and well balanced, which would provide for low transaction costs. This drives SMEs development. The enterprise which think only how to decrease costs and to increase quality, and it should not think about all those corruption problems, how to deal with them, with some non-market problems which it faces, these barriers. When this enterprise shouldn't think about all these things, it works more efficiently. It is possible to develop to such enterprise, but not to be involved in struggle with some anti-competitive practices. Why joining competition policy and SMEs development policy should be joined? So the problem was that there was no vertical competition in Ukraine. The competition where SMEs compete with large with small enterprises, compete with medium enterprises, and medium enterprises with large enterprises. In our country, we have only horizontal competition, small between small and medium vis-a-vis medium enterprises. The companies should implement innovative products when they have vertical competition, and if someone is ahead and implement innovative technologies and provide state-of-the-art services, other enterprises, they also increase their innovativeness, and they provide better quality products for consumers. This would improve development of economy in general, talking about competition policy, we should remember one more principle, which is supporting one enterprises not to interfere with other with such measures. Whether it should be agriculture or tourism, we should think that even positive support, it may distort competition and result in some privileged conditions, privileged environment for one sector, which would hamper development of other sectors. So we should introduce well-balanced approach. When we support new marketplaces which are promising, we should prior to providing support, we should analyze prospects, whether their development will help to develop not just individual industries but the economy on the whole. And we should remember that in competition policy should protect the players which play fair game. And Mr. Günter said about anti-monopoly law in Ukraine. In Ukraine, we usually blame our laws, but anti-monopolistic law in Ukraine is not so bad. Anti-monopoly committee works rather efficiently. It has been reformed and it starts a new stage in its development, and these institutions, anti-monopolistic institutions, they are well balanced and rather efficient, as well as the legislation in this plane. But competition should be fair and natural pressure should be in place on competitors via innovative technologies.
Go to land. I would like to thank you very much, Olga. There's basically everything is started, everything is prepared, and now it is just a question of bringing the best stakeholders and the best experts together. And together with Naumann Foundation, I would really like to thank you, Olga, for your excellent study. And I think we will follow up in the specific of competition policy. Now we go to the issue of land, and also there is a lot of issues which are concretely already studied and very concretely ready to be implemented, and everything connected with SMEs is connected with land as well. Thanks a lot, Dmytro from Easy Business, for your presentation. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Günter, for the opportunity to share our ideas on the SME development and the land market reform in Ukraine. Probably I will continue my speech in Ukrainian as well. Тому я б хотів сьогодні поговорити.
I would like to tell you about the strategy of small and medium-sized business and the influence of land reform on this, and the things that will help us to create quality and efficient and resultative small and medium-sized business. Today we had an opportunity to hear interesting ideas of the previous speakers, and Günter presented us with the strategy and his views on this, and all of us, we understand that regulatory area in Ukraine is inefficient, and we should change this, and we should create better conditions for business in Ukraine. How can we do this? This can be done at 4 levels. First, public policy. Here, we should carry out structural reforms, deregulation, Oleksandr mentioned, or tax reform, or many other reforms that will stimulate the development of small and medium-sized business in Ukraine. Second level is the industry level. Here there should be infrastructure, improvement of competition, and investment attractiveness of the sectors. It can be tourism, agriculture, and many other areas. Third level is the level of business associations, and I'm glad that we have the representatives of business associations and the Ombudsman that protect business and help medium and small-sized businesses, and we should improve this communication between the businesses and business associations. And the fourth level is the level of business, the level of culture, the formation of strategy, management, marketing, investment activities, and many other aspects of doing European and successful small and medium-sized business. Several words on deregulation. Because organization I represent is a business, we deal with these issues of deregulation in Ukraine. It should be based on three stages. First, regulatory barriers should be removed, and we removed 200 of such barriers. So then there should be an analysis of legal acts that should be cancelled or improved, or that should remain in force. And the third stage, regulatory impact assessment. We should monitor those acts that are in effect, and what results the regulation can bring to reduce the licenses in agrarian sector, and it leads to 2 billion in hryvnia equivalent saving of also, thanks to Günter, I can tell you about land reform and agriculture reform, and how can we help small and medium-sized businesses in agrarian sector. In Ukraine, this is a leading area. Each year there is growth 6 or 7% and 15% of GDP of Ukraine, and Ukraine has great potential for the development of the sector. So there are many hectares of agricultural lands, and this is good lands, but citizens cannot work properly with this land because they do not have the right, they cannot sell the land, they only can lease it, and it prevents the development of the sector. Now the business models of the companies are directed to broaden their lands, but not on the improvement of business practices. And 100 biggest companies control 20% of land bank, and others they have less share, and the situation should be changed. But before speaking about changes, we should first look at the slide. So the price is one of the lowest in Europe and in the world. So the assessment established by the state and the basis for taxation and lease, and it is not comparable with the equivalent in European countries. And there should be an open market that will turn land into asset and will allow to small and medium-sized businesses and millions of Ukrainians that got 27 million of lands and cannot properly handle this. They will be provided with opportunity to develop agriculture and economy of the country on the whole. So 1 hectare is $35–40 per year, and in Europe and in the world is about 200 or more. And this prevents development of agricultural sector in Ukraine. So companies do not invest in the new technologies. And if we create open market of land, after creation of such a market, the land will be an asset, and small and medium-sized enterprises will get opportunity to get a loan and to get financial resources, and they will be able to buy this land and to capitalize on it, and they will be able to produce more efficiently, and population will have their constitutional rights observed. So first, there should be clear and open market, then access to resources for small and medium-sized businesses, and third is increase of productivity of the sector. And the second and third element are impossible without the first one, without creation of this open market of land. And this market can provide opportunities for those people who own this land but cannot handle it, and also it will provide opportunities for people who live in these territories. And we want to stimulate business in rural areas and the development of infrastructure. So this is the work for prospects.
Closer to the European Union, anyhow, there is no alternative than to open the land market. And you know, this is totally against human rights, what's happening in this situation. And definitely it will make a tremendous change. I will actually thank very much Easy Business, and now for this really very good preparation already. And I think here is an agenda for the government to follow very clearly. And now I would like to ask Edward for a short intervention on the big topic of taxation. And we are very much honored that you are here. You're a friend of Gleb, who has recommended you, and Vlad, best regards. And please share your insights on taxation with us.
Дякую. Я, крім того, що виступаю від імені РПР, говорю зараз як
So I'm an RPR expert, and also I'm entrepreneur. And I'm going to speak about my experience of entrepreneurship. First, you know that if you go to remote areas, you see that people do not have money to buy just basic things. And in order to develop business, businessmen lack resources. It's difficult for them to produce something because they cannot get a loan for good percentage rate. And also, the state do not intervene properly in the situation. And they tried to, you know, that the government wants to increase the minimum salary up to 3,200 hryvnias, but you know that this is not a good step taken by the government. And the economy is too regulated, and the small and medium-sized business, they lose their resources just to overcome some obstacles, some barriers. And it is too monopolized, many markets. We have, for example, connection to electricity networks. It's like a tax to monopoly, and the medium business does not believe that the state is good as a partner because legislation is not predictable, and this is a weak partner in such a situation. In these conditions, the state should take proper steps. If they want to support something, they should understand that they do it using the money of taxpayers, and they distort economic situation. And so one of the steps is to improve tax system. So it should create stimulus for the state, and the taxes paid by businesses. You know that VAT tax, the ministry proposed a draft law to improve the situation, and there should be clear and equal rules for everyone. And you know that there are 2 separate invoices for the VAT refunds, and the state should deal with these issues more. And also single social contribution and other taxes 42%, but this figure is too high. And the difficulty of the situation is that we have a growing number of elderly people in the country, and we should not delay in resolving these key issues. And also profit tax. The initiative of business is to replace this profit tax on the tax of. So we should change tax system, and we should create conditions for the regulation. But the main thing, we should provide the business with opportunities. And you know that small business and medium-sized business, they should be provided with a stimulus, and the money should work in business for people, for economy, and the money should be should remain in the business. And on a systemic level, the changes should be introduced without breaking market rules.
One of the key drivers, and you have heard now, competition, tax, land, these are the three axes we have to work along in order to really improve the situation of SMEs in Ukraine on the way to the European Union. Again, I repeat very clearly, all this was already done very successfully in Central Europe, in Southeastern Europe in the last 5 years, and it can be easily done here together with the existing resources, together jointly with the stakeholders, with this really huge capacities which there are, and together with the government of Ukraine in a close partnership. This is what the EU SME Week is about. All the sector stakeholders, all the business service providers, all the think tanks and experts, which really are amazing here in Ukraine, with all the capacities you bring, together with the state institutions and the international donor community, to sit on roundtables like this, to hear, to listen, to discuss, and then also to implement this successfully in the year 2017. And we will do this now every year until it's exactly as it should be, the situation of SMEs under European regulation and standards. And this is the way forward. I would like to thank now everybody. We can do a joint photo together. All the speakers will be available for individual questions now, but the next session is starting at 11. Let me also thank the Ukrainian Crisis Media Center, because, Valentin, this is really very perfect that we have the opportunity to be here. Thanks a lot for your support, and thanks to all the speakers for coming this morning. Good luck. And the Ukrainian European EU SME Week is officially opened. Please support it. Thank you very much.